Greetings to all my students. We would continue with our revision classes. We will start with the revision of the third chapter and will pick up the objectives of privatization. Last class we discussed what is privatization. Privatization is transfer of ownership, management and control of enterprises into the hands of private entrepreneurs. Now, what was the purpose behind privatization of public sector undertaking and giving the private sector more opportunities for setting up of industries in the economy? Number one, the basic reason was that the government was facing shortage of funds or capital. So through disinvestment, government was trying to raise funds. Number two, improving the financial condition. In order to recover its financial strength, the government tried out selling off of equity shares of the public sector enterprises into private hands. Third, bringing healthy competition within the economy. Giving away to private sector industries would bring about better techniques of production, would help in maximizing profit-oriented production, would lead to production of quality goods and services at cheaper rate. Thus, this would provide competition to the public sector enterprises and would help them to enhance their standard of production. Making a way for direct foreign investment. Privatization would also encourage foreign investment. It would encourage forming collaborations with multinationals. It would encourage import of assets, capital. It would also help in bringing new techniques of production into the economy and thereby helping the economy to raise its standard of production. Next, globalization. Globalization is the process associated with increasing the openness and growing economic interdependence. It is the process of integrating different economies of the world so as to make them more interdependent. This takes place through movement of people, movement of goods, services, and technology across the borders. Policies promoting globalization. How can you encourage integration of economies? Number one, increase in equity limit of foreign investment. That means you encourage foreign direct investment and increasing the share of foreign capital into the business. Partial convertibility. You allow the companies to be jointly held and owned by private entrepreneurs and foreign establishments. Long-term trade policy. Getting into trade relationship with other countries on a long-term basis. Reduction in tariff. Reduction in tariff plays an important role in encouraging trade activities, making the goods cheaper and increasing their demand. Now we would quickly go through the appraisal of the LPG policies. Number one, increase in foreign investment. Number two, increase in foreign exchange reserve. Number three, check off inflation. Number four, increase in national income. Fifth, increase in export. Sixth, consumer sovereignty. Automatically, due to globalization, there was an increase in trading activities, sharing of techniques, integration of production, thereby increasing foreign investment in the economy. Number two, higher exports, increase in the volume of imports led to greater transactions. More of exports led to increase in the inflow of foreign exchange and increasing the foreign exchange reserves. Check on inflation. Goods which were not being domestically produced could now be imported, and that too at competitive and cheaper rates. Thus, the demand of the people could be catered, and shortage of production and high demand would not lead to rising prices. Increase in national income. Now, production was taking place not just to fulfill the needs of domestic consumption, but goods were being produced to be traded. Thus, it led to an increase in national output and national income. At the same time, it led to an increase in exports of the economy. Consumer sovereignty. Consumers were treated as the king, goods were being produced as per the requirements of the consumer. The consumers could now enjoy quality goods at cheaper rates. They also had a variety of goods to pick up and choose from. Negative impacts. Neglect of agricultural sector. Globalization did not take enough measures to bring about agricultural development. It was basically focusing on expansion of industrial output, integration of production activities, increasing trade, encouraging technological developments. Jobless growth. Growth was taking place, but job opportunities were not being created at the same pace, as modern techniques of production replaced manual labor. Increase in income inequality. It is said that the benefits of globalization, privatization was generally enjoyed by those who had skill, education, resources, and wealth. And the lower income group, the labor class, was generally exploited and did not benefit much out of globalization. Adverse effect of disinvestment policies. Closure of the public sector units, transferring of ownership rights led to joblessness amongst people. Public sector was basically being operated for welfare, so welfare objective was ignored. Spread of consumerism. It was basically the consumer's taste preference being taken care of, who had the ability to buy and afford goods. The lower class consumers who did not afford to fulfill their basic minimum needs of existence, their taste, their preference, their welfare was being ignored. Cultural erosion. It is said that the cultural disintegration took place due to globalization. The cultural stability could not be maintained as people were moving from one place to other, techniques of production being shared, assets being purchased and sold. The cultural stability and originality was somehow being influenced and Western culture was being introduced. Encourages economic colonialism. In a way, we were again going back to the colonial era where a country's domination over another economy was basically taking place in order to establish itself in terms of trade. So, some people argue that globalization was a new form of colonialism. So, this was all related to LPG policies. a brief recapitulation of the World Trade Organization, which played an important role in bringing about liberalization. World Trade Organization was established in 1995. It replaced the General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. The main objective was to ensure free trade amongst the different economies of the world. The World Trade Organization saw to it that the economies unnecessarily do not retain their trade barriers, and there is encouragement to foreign trade taking place amongst the different countries of the world. So, this was all about your economic reforms since 1991. So, we have briefly recapitulated whatever we did in this chapter. So, kindly go through the chapter, thoroughly revise the chapter in detail so that you can get ready for your online test. Thank you and take care.